My name is Amber Mitchell, I'm 29, and the Victorian house on Maple Street has always been my safe haven. The place where Grandma Evelyn taught me to bake apple pies and tend to rose bushes. 2 weeks ago, she passed away and somehow left this beautiful home to me. Not my parents or my older sister Heather. Now my phone's lighting up with a text from Mom. Family meeting. Tonight. Non-negotiable. I sigh, parking behind Heather's car in my parents' driveway. Whatever this is about, they've already formed a united front without me. Before I dive into what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever dealt with family drama over inheritance. Trust me, this story has more twists than Grandma's famous cinnamon rolls. The hallway of my parents' suburban home is like a shrine to family milestones, but with a noticeable pattern. School photos line the wall chronologically. Heather's always framed slightly larger than mine. Trophy shelf? Heather's participation awards front and center, my academic achievements tucked behind. It's subtle enough that pointing it out would make me sound petty, but obvious enough that I've felt it my entire life. I pause at a photo from my 12th birthday. Heather, then 15, stands in the center despite it being my celebration. Mom's arm is draped around her shoulders while I'm slightly offset, Dad's hand awkwardly hovering near my back but not quite touching. The frozen moment perfectly captures our family dynamic. Growing up, I was the responsible one by necessity. Heather commanded attention effortlessly, dramatic, charming, and perpetually in need of rescue. Your sister just feels things more deeply, Mom would explain after another of Heather's meltdowns earned her special treatment. Meanwhile, I learned that achievements were expected, not celebrated. Grandma Evelyn was different. Dad's mother lived alone in that beautiful Victorian after Grandpa died. And every summer I'd spend 3 weeks with her while Heather chose shopping trips with Mom instead. Those weeks were transformative. Grandma didn't coddle or make excuses. She taught me to deadhead roses, properly measure baking ingredients, and balance a checkbook. Being responsible isn't boring, Amber, she'd say. It's freedom. Nobody can control you when you can stand on your own 2 feet. During those summers, I'd help her make jam from the backyard berry bushes, listening to stories about how she and Grandpa saved for years to buy the house. Nothing worth having comes easy, was her mantra. While other grandparents spoiled their grandchildren, Grandma Evelyn taught me independence. Back home the contrast was stark. Heather drifted through high school with barely passing grades, while I maintained a 4.0 GPA. School is just easier for Amber, Mom would tell relatives, diminishing my hard work. When Heather got accepted to community college, after Dad spoke to someone on the admissions board, they threw a party. My scholarship to state received a nice dinner out, with half the conversation focused on Heather's recent breakup. The pattern continued into adulthood. I worked part-time throughout college, graduated with honors, and secured a marketing position that I've since advanced in. Meanwhile, Heather has held 7 different jobs in the past 5 years. Retail positions abandoned because managers had it out for her. An office job quit because the environment was toxic. A startup role left because it was stifling her creativity. After each career crisis, she'd retreat to our parents' house until they helped her find a new apartment and job. The bank of Mom and Dad remained eternally open for Heather, rent subsidies, car payments, credit card bailouts. While I lived within my means across town, our relationship grew increasingly strained. Family dinners devolved into showcases of Heather's latest drama, while my promotions or achievements warranted only passing mention. I started visiting less, making excuses about work commitments. No one really noticed my gradual withdrawal. Grandma did. Our weekly phone calls became my emotional anchor. She never criticized my parents directly but would say things like, "Some people never learn that helping sometimes isn't helping at all." She kept up with my career moves and personal life with genuine interest. When she was diagnosed with heart problems last year, I visited every weekend. Heather came along occasionally, spending most visits on her phone in the living room while I helped Grandma with household tasks or simply sat talking with her. During my final visit, Grandma held my hand unusually tight before I left. "You're stronger than you know, sweetheart," she said. "Don't forget that." I didn't know those would be our last words. She passed peacefully in her sleep 3 days later. The reading of the will was a shock to everyone. The modest savings were split among family members. But the house, the beautiful Victorian worth at least $400,000 in today's market, was left solely to me. Mom's face went pale, Dad looked confused, and Heather immediately burst into tears. Now, walking into my parents' living room, I'm greeted by three solemn faces. Mom's arms are crossed, Dad's examining his fingernails, and Heather's eyes are conspicuously red-rimmed. The air feels thick with unspoken expectations, and I realize I've walked into an ambush. Amber, sit down. Mom gestures to the only empty seat, the uncomfortable ottoman that places me lower than everyone else. Power move so obvious I almost laugh. Instead, I choose the arm of the sofa, keeping myself elevated. What's this about? I ask, though I already know. Mom and Dad exchange glances before she takes the lead. We need to discuss Grandma's house, the inheritance. What's there to discuss? I keep my voice neutral. Grandma made her wishes clear. Wishes can be misguided, Mom replies sharply. Your grandmother wasn't thinking about the family as a whole. Dad clears his throat. What your mother means is that we need to consider what's best for everyone. His conciliatory tone is familiar. The voice he uses when backing Mom's decisions while pretending independence. The thing is, Mom continues, leaning forward. Heather needs that house far more than you do. And there it is. The real purpose of this gathering. Heather sniffles right on cue. I wouldn't normally ask, Amber, but I'm in a really tough spot right now. What happened to your apartment? I ask. More glances exchanged before Dad mumbles. There was an issue with the landlord. She was evicted. Mom clarifies with a dismissive wave. A complete misunderstanding about payment timing. These rental companies are so heartless. It was my third notice, Heather admits, examining her manicure. But they knew my situation was complicated. The familiar script unfolds. Heather's problems are always circumstances beyond her control, never consequences of her actions. And your job at the boutique? I press. Heather's expression darkens. My manager was totally out to get me, writing me up for being 10 minutes late when she knows I'm not a morning person. So you quit? I was going to be fired anyway, she shrugs. At least this way I left on my terms. Mom interjects. The job market is impossible right now. Your sister has been applying everywhere. For 3 days, Heather adds, as if this represents extraordinary effort. Dad leans forward, adopting his reasonable businessman persona. Here's what we're thinking. Grandma's house would give Heather stability. A fresh start. No mortgage to worry about, just property taxes and utilities. Which we'd help with initially. Mom adds quickly. And what about my fresh start? I ask. I've been saving for a home for years. Mom's expression turns dismissive. You're doing fine, Amber. You have your career. Your apartment. Heather has nothing right now. Because of choices she's made. I point out. That's cruel, Mom snaps. Not everyone has your advantages. I almost choke. My advantages? I worked through college. I've never had my rent paid by you. What advantages exactly? Some people just have an easier time with responsibility, Dad says. As if this trait randomly fell into my lap at birth rather than being something I cultivated. Heather, sensing the conversation slipping away from their agenda, launches into her own offensive. I've already started planning how I'd fix up the place. Nothing major. Just updating that awful kitchen, and maybe converting the sunroom into a yoga studio. You've been planning renovations for a house that isn't yours? I ask incredulously. Well, it's just sitting there empty, she replies defensively. And let's be honest. You don't even want to live in Wellington Falls long term. You're always talking about moving to Chicago for your career. The fact that she's been discussing my private ambitions and making plans for Grandma's house stokes something fierce inside me. If you really love your family, you'll do this, Mom says, delivering the killing blow. It would help all of us. Your father and I wouldn't have to worry about Heather's living situation, and we could focus on our retirement. So this is about you too. I observe. Not just Heather. Dad at least has the decency to look uncomfortable. Family takes care of family, Amber. You've always been able to take care of yourself. And Heather never has to because you make sure of it, I reply. Heather's eyes well with tears. You've always had everything easier than me. School, jobs, everything. The one time I need something, you're going to hold it over my head. This isn't something, Heather. It's a house. A valuable property that Grandma specifically left to me. Because you manipulated her, Mom accuses. All those visits when Heather was busy trying to build her career. The injustice of this accusation leaves me momentarily speechless. We're not asking you to give up anything, really, Dad says soothingly. Just transfer the deed to your sister. You'd still be welcome to visit any time. How generous, I say flatly. Offering me visitation rights to what's legally mine. Don't be difficult, Mom sighs. We need an answer soon. Heather's staying in our guest room, which isn't sustainable. For whom? I ask. For any of us, she replies sharply. So what's it going to be? I stand up, suddenly needing air. I need time to think. What's there to think about? Heather asks, genuine confusion in her voice. It's just a house. It's Grandma's house, I correct her. And she wanted me to have it. Grandma didn't understand the family dynamic, Mom dismisses. She always played favorites with you. I'm leaving now, I announce, walking toward the door. I'll let you know my decision when I've had time to process this. Don't take too long. Mom calls after me. Heather needs to give notice at her storage unit if she's moving. The presumption that I'll acquiesce leaves me speechless. I close the door perhaps a bit too firmly behind me, my hands shaking with a mixture of anger and hurt as I walk to my car. The Victorian house sits quietly at the end of Elm Street, its pale yellow exterior glowing in the late afternoon sun. I park in the gravel driveway just as I have hundreds of times before, but today is different. Today, I'm not visiting. I'm coming to a property that's legally mine, yet somehow still feels like Grandma's. I use the key she gave me years ago, the familiar creak of the front door welcoming me home. The entryway still holds her umbrella stand, the delicate console table with the crystal dish where she always placed her keys. The house smells of lemon furniture polish and the faint lingering scent of the roses she kept in a vase on the dining room table. I should probably replace those. Standing in the center of the living room, memories cascade around me. The floral sofa where Grandma taught me to knit when I was 10. The rocking chair by the bay window where she would sit reading mystery novels. The antique coffee table with a small scratch from when I accidentally dropped a toy car on it at age 7, and cried until Grandma assured me that imperfections give character. I run my hand along the wallpaper in the hallway, a vintage pattern of small blue flowers that she always refused to update despite my mother's persistent suggestions. Some things don't need improving just because they're old, she'd say with a pointed look that always made me hide a smile. The kitchen is where the strongest memories live. This sunny yellow room with its original cabinets and the big farmhouse sink is where Grandma taught me to make her famous apple pie. I was 12, standing on a step stool to reach the countertop properly, meticulously measuring flour into a bowl. Baking is science, Amber, she explained. You respect the measurements, or chemistry punishes you with flat cookies. Later that same summer, she caught me eyeing the finished pie with impatience. The best things require waiting, sweetheart. Rush it and you'll have apple soup instead of pie. I opened the refrigerator out of habit, half expecting to find her neat containers of leftovers. Instead, there's just a half-empty bottle of water and some condiments. Reality hits me again, she's gone. Upstairs, her bedroom is exactly as she left it. The bed is made with hospital corners. Her reading glass is still on the nightstand next to a dog-eared mystery novel. The closet door is slightly ajar, and I can see her neatly hung cardigans and blouses. In the second bedroom, the one that was always mine during visits, I sit on the edge of the twin bed and try to process my family's ambush. The familiar quilt beneath my fingers grounds me as my thoughts race. Did Grandma anticipate this reaction? She must have known leaving me the house would cause friction. Was this her last lesson to me about standing my ground? I remember a conversation from last summer, sitting with her on the back porch swing as fireflies began appearing in the garden dusk. Your sister called today, she mentioned casually. Oh, I replied, surprised. Heather rarely contacted Grandma directly. Wanted to know if I needed help organizing my financial paperwork. Grandma's expression remained neutral, but her eyes held a knowing glint. Awful concerned about my estate planning all of a sudden. I shifted uncomfortably. Maybe she just wants to help. Amber, Grandma said gently, kindness doesn't always wear a kind face, and selfishness often disguises itself as concern. Learn to tell the difference. Later that same evening, she made a comment that seemed odd at the time. I've made my decisions carefully with eyes wide open. Remember that, whatever happens after I'm gone. Was she preparing me for this moment? My phone buzzes with texts from Mom. Have you made a decision yet? Heather's looking at paint samples. Thinking sage green for the living room. Asterisk, don't be selfish, Amber. Family comes first. I silence the phone and continue wandering through the house, eventually finding myself in Grandma's small home office. The roll-top desk contains her meticulously organized papers. In the center drawer, I find a leather-bound journal I've never seen before. Opening it, I recognize Grandma's elegant handwriting immediately. The most recent entry is dated just 2 weeks before her death. Finalizing my will today. Diana will be upset with my decision, but I've watched how she and Robert have crippled Heather with their help. The girl is 32 and has never faced a consequence or completed anything difficult. Meanwhile, Amber has fought for everything she has, never expecting rewards for basic adult behavior. The house goes to Amber. She understands the value of what she earns. Heather needs to learn this lesson, though I doubt she will. My son and his wife have ensured that. Perhaps this final act will help Amber see her own strength. She'll need it when they try to take this from her too. I closed the journal, tears blurring my vision. Grandma knew exactly what would happen and still made her choice deliberately. This wasn't a careless oversight or sentimental favoritism. It was a conscious decision based on her assessment of character. My phone buzzes again. This time it's Heather calling. I hesitate before answering. Hello, Amber. Her voice is thick with tears. Mom said you're being difficult about the house. I really need this. You know my credit isn't good enough to qualify for a mortgage, and rental applications keep rejecting me because of the eviction. This is my only chance to get back on my feet. The familiar guilt rises in my chest, the lifetime of conditioning to put Heather's needs before my own. But now Grandma's words echo alongside it. She understands the value of what she earns. I need time to think, Heather, I say firmly. What's there to think about? It's just a house to you, but it's my future. Her voice shifts from pleading to accusatory. You've always been selfish. Everyone sees it but you. I end the call and sit at Grandma's desk, caught between honoring her wishes and 30 years of family expectation. The house keys feel heavy in my pocket. They actually expected you to just hand over a house? Taylor stirs her latte vigorously, her expression incredulous. A whole house? Like it's borrowing $5. We're sitting in our favorite coffee shop, the one halfway between our apartments with the mismatched vintage furniture and locally roasted beans. Taylor has been my best friend since college orientation, when we bonded over being the only 2 students who actually completed the summer reading assignment. They didn't even frame it as a request. I explain. More like an expectation with a timeline attached. Classic Diana move, Taylor mutters. She's heard enough stories over the years to form strong opinions about my family dynamics, creating a situation where saying no makes you the villain. Exactly. I warm my hands around my mug, and I hate that it's working. I spent half the night wondering if I'm being selfish. Taylor sets down her spoon with purpose. Let's break this down logically. Your grandmother legally left you her house. Your sister, who has never shown interest in this house before, suddenly believes she's entitled to it because she's facing consequences of her own actions. When you put it that way, and your parents, instead of encouraging your 30-something sister to develop life skills, want you to give up a significant inheritance to perpetuate her dependence. I sigh. But family is complicated, Tay. No, sweetie. Family is simple. Manipulation is complicated. Her direct gaze holds mine. Would you advise any friend to give away a house worth hundreds of thousands of dollars because someone else wanted it more? Of course not. Then why are you considering it for yourself? It's a fair question without a good answer. Have you spoken to the lawyer who handled the will? Taylor asks. I haven't, so after coffee I call Samuel Barnes, the attorney who managed Grandma's estate. His secretary fits me in for a late afternoon appointment. The law office is in a converted Victorian not unlike Grandma's house, though this one has been divided into professional suites. Mr. Barnes is older than I expected, with silver hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. Ah, Ms. Mitchell. Please have a seat. He gestures to a leather chair. What can I help you with today? I explain my family's expectation and my resulting dilemma. I see. He removes his glasses, polishing them thoughtfully. I worked with your grandmother for many years. Evelyn was a remarkably clear-headed woman who rarely made decisions impulsively. Did she ever mention why she left the house specifically to me? He hesitates. I typically don't discuss private conversations with clients, but in this case I believe Evelyn would want you to know. He places his glasses back on. She considered her options very carefully. We discuss various scenarios, including splitting the property between you and your sister, or leaving it to your parents. What made her decide against those options? Your grandmother believed in self-sufficiency above all else. She expressed concerns that certain family members, his diplomatic phrasing is transparent, might not appreciate the property's value, both monetary and sentimental. My parents expected to inherit it themselves, didn't they? His expression confirms my suspicion. They had made certain comments over the years that suggested they anticipated being the beneficiaries, yes. And they would have given it to my sister. I couldn't say for certain. He replies carefully. But your grandmother had her concerns. As I leave the law office, I feel both validated and burdened. Grandma made her choice intentionally, anticipating exactly this fallout. Honoring her wishes means weathering this family storm. On impulse, I drive back to Grandma's house, my house, and notice Mrs. Jenkins, the neighbor from across the street, tending her front garden. She waves enthusiastically when she spots me. Amber, I was hoping to see you around. The 70-something woman removes her gardening gloves as I approach. I'm so sorry about Evelyn. We all miss her terribly. Thank you. I miss her too. She was so proud of you, you know. Always telling me about your latest accomplishment. Her warm smile falters slightly. I saw your sister here yesterday measuring the front windows. Something about new curtains? My stomach tightens. She was inside the house. Oh no, just on the porch with a tape measure. Said she was helping you with decorating decisions. Mrs. Jenkins studies my expression. I take it that wasn't the case? Not exactly, no. She nods knowingly. Your grandmother worried about that. Said your sister always had trouble understanding boundaries. Did Grandma talk to you about us often? Garden chats between neighbors, she explains. Especially this past year when her health was declining. She mentioned leaving you the house. Said you were the only one who truly appreciated its history. We chat a while longer, Mrs. Jenkins sharing stories about Grandma I'd never heard. As we talk, I notice a familiar car driving slowly past the house, my mother's silver sedan. It continues down the street without stopping. Later that evening, I'm sorting through kitchen cabinets when I hear voices on the front porch. Peering through the curtains, I see Mom and Heather standing by the railing, engaged in animated conversation. I crack the window slightly to listen. Could get at least $4.50 for it in this market, Mom is saying. Even without updates. The kitchen needs a complete renovation, Heather replies. And I was thinking of converting the spare bedroom into a walk-in closet. You could always sell it and buy something more modern in a better neighborhood, Mom suggests. This place has charm, but it's hardly practical. True, the maintenance would be a nightmare. They continue discussing the house as if it's already Heather's, debating whether to keep or sell it. Neither option involving preserving what Grandma loved about the place. I close the window, a cold clarity settling over me. This isn't about family needs or Heather's stability. It's about getting their hands on an asset they feel entitled to. Grandma knew. She always knew. The text from my cousin Jessica comes 3 days later. Asterisk, just checking you're okay? Aunt Diana says you're having some kind of breakdown over Grandma's will. We're all worried. Asterisk. I stare at the message in disbelief. A breakdown? I haven't even spoken to my mother since leaving their house that night. More messages trickle in from extended family throughout the day. Asterisk, family should come first, Amber. Your sister needs help. Asterisk, Uncle Keith. Asterisk, your grandmother would be disappointed by this selfishness. Asterisk, Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, who met Grandma maybe 5 times in 20 years. Sharing is caring. Cousin Mark, who once sued his brother over a baseball card collection. The family narrative is being crafted without my input. I'm the selfish, unstable one having a breakdown by not immediately surrendering a significant inheritance. That evening, an email arrives from Dad. Amber. Asterisk, your continued silence on this matter is causing your mother significant distress. Her blood pressure has been elevated, and she had trouble sleeping last night worrying about your sister's situation. Asterisk. Asterisk, I've always stayed neutral in family matters, but this time I must insist you consider the bigger picture. Heather has nowhere to go, and your mother and I cannot support her indefinitely at our age. Asterisk. Asterisk, the house is just a material possession. Family is forever. Asterisk. Dad. The manipulation is so transparent it would be comical if it weren't so hurtful. Dad has never been neutral. He's always been Mom's silent enforcer, using selective intervention to maintain the illusion of fairness, while ultimately supporting the status quo. I draft several responses before deleting them all. Nothing I say will penetrate the family mythology they've constructed. The next day brings an unexpected confrontation when my apartment doorbell rings at 7:30 p.m. Through the peephole, I see Heather, mascara smudged and expression dramatic. I open the door cautiously. Heather? What are you? She pushes past me into the apartment. We need to talk. You're ignoring everyone's calls and texts. I'm processing, not ignoring, I reply, closing the door. And I'd appreciate some space to do that. Space. She laughs bitterly. Must be nice to have options. Meanwhile, I'm sleeping on Mom and Dad's lumpy guest bed surrounded by Dad's model train collection, because our selfish sister won't share what she doesn't even need. Sit down, I sigh. Would you like some water? Tea. I don't want your hospitality, Amber. I want what Grandma should have left me. There it is, the raw entitlement. Not should have left us or even should have left the family. In Heather's mind, the house rightfully belongs to her. Why do you think that? I asked genuinely. You rarely visited her. You complained every time Mom asked you to check on her. You once called her house depressing and stuck in the last century. That's not fair. I was busy trying to build a career. A career you've abandoned 7 times in 5 years. Her face flushes. Not everyone can be perfect like you. This isn't about perfection, Heather. It's about choices and consequences. Easy for you to say from your perfect apartment with your perfect job. Tears well in her eyes. You have no idea what it's like to struggle. The irony is suffocating. I worked 30 hours a week during college while maintaining a full course load. I lived in a studio apartment with a hot plate for 3 years to save for a down payment that I still haven't been able to afford. Don't talk to me about struggle. That's different, she dismisses. How? You're good at that stuff. It comes naturally to you. Nothing about it was natural, I counter. It was hard every single day. Her expression shifts from self-pity to anger. You think you're so much better than me. You've always thought that. I've never thought that, Heather. But I do think I've made different choices. And now you're punishing me for mine by keeping the house for yourself. She paces the small living room. What are you even going to do with it? You don't need that much space. You don't even like Wellington Falls. I haven't decided yet, I admit. But it's my decision to make. It should be a family decision, she shouts, sudden rage overtaking her features. You're so selfish. Mom was right, Grandma played favorites because you manipulated her with all those visits. The accusation stings despite its absurdity. I visited because I cared about her. You visited to get her house. Everyone sees it but you. Heather grabs her purse. Mom and Dad have called a family meeting on Sunday. Everyone's coming, uncles, aunts, cousins. Maybe you'll listen to reason when you see how your actions are affecting the whole family. She storms out, slamming the door hard enough that my neighbor's dog starts barking. The intervention is scheduled for 2 p.m. Sunday at my parents' house. I consider not showing up, but that would only reinforce their narrative of my selfishness and instability. Instead, I arrive 10 minutes early, parking on the street when I see the driveway already full of familiar cars. Inside, the living room has been arranged like a tribunal. The sofa and various chairs form a semicircle, with a single chair positioned to face them all. My role in this performance is immediately clear. Amber. Mom greets me stiffly. Thank you for coming. I count 11 people: my parents, Heather, 2 uncles with their wives, Aunt Linda, and 3 adult cousins. All eyes follow me as I deliberately ignore the isolated chair, and instead perch on the piano bench along the wall, disrupting their staging. We've asked you here because we're concerned. Mom begins, clearly having rehearsed this speech. Your behavior since Grandma's passing has worried all of us. Uncle Rob nods gravely. Family needs to stick together during difficult times, especially when one member is struggling, adds Aunt Linda with a pointed look at Heather, who has produced tears on cue. One by one, they deliver prepared statements about family obligation, Heather's greater need, and thinly veiled suggestions about my mental state for not immediately acquiescing. Has anyone considered what Grandma wanted? I finally interject. Your grandmother didn't understand the family's needs, Mom dismisses. Or perhaps she understood them perfectly, I counter. Heather sniffles dramatically. She would want me to be taken care of. By learning to take care of yourself, maybe, I suggest. The room tenses as the script deviation registers. Amber, Dad warns. We're trying to have a constructive conversation. No, you're trying to pressure me into giving away a house that was legally left to me. There's nothing constructive about emotional manipulation. Mom gasps as if I've slapped her. How dare you accuse us of manipulation? We're trying to help your sister. By taking from me. It's not taking if you give willingly, Aunt Linda points out. And there's nothing willing about this scenario, I reply. The conversation circles like this for 20 minutes. Guilt, obligation, family loyalty, all directed at me with increasing intensity. Then Uncle Michael, who has remained silent until now, clears his throat. I'd like to ask something. He turns to my parents. If Evelyn had left the house to you both instead of Amber, would we be having this same conversation about giving it to Heather? The question lands like a grenade. Mom sputters. That's completely different. Is it? Uncle Michael persists. Because it seems like the only acceptable outcome here is Heather getting the house, regardless of what Evelyn wanted. Michael, Mom hisses, you're not helping. I'm not trying to help. I'm trying to understand. He turns to me. Amber, in the 32 years I've known your sister, has she ever successfully maintained anything of value without your parents' intervention? That's a cruel question, Mom interjects before I can answer. No, I say quietly. She hasn't. Uncle Michael nods. Then perhaps your grandmother knew exactly what she was doing. A charged silence fills the room. I stand up, finding strength in the unexpected support. I've listened to everyone's concerns. Now I'd like you all to hear me. Grandma left me her house because she trusted my judgment. She knew I wouldn't make a rash decision based on pressure or guilt. So you're keeping it? Heather accuses, fresh tears appearing. I didn't say that. I said I'm making a thoughtful decision that honors what Grandma valued. And what she valued was self-sufficiency, not dependence. Mom rises, her expression thunderous. If you choose a house over your sister's well-being, I will never forgive you. The threat that would have devastated me a week ago now reveals its hollowness. Forgiveness implies I've done something wrong. Standing firm against manipulation isn't wrong. It's necessary. I'm sorry you feel that way, I reply calmly. I'll let you all know my decision when I've made it. I walk out of the house, ignoring the chorus of protests behind me. For the first time in my life, I've directly challenged the family system and survived. Uncle Michael catches up to me at my car. Your grandmother would be proud, he says simply. She always said you had a steel spine under all that politeness. Thank you for speaking up in there. He shrugs. Someone needed to state the obvious. This family has one playbook they've been running for 30 years. Maybe it's time for a new strategy. As I drive away, I realize Grandma's final gift wasn't just the house. It was this moment of clarity, this permission to finally stand my ground. The Victorian house feels different in early morning light, full of possibility rather than just memories. I spend the weekend there, sleeping in the guest room rather than Grandma's bedroom, which still feels like hers. With each hour that passes, I feel more connected to the space, imagining what it could become. I find myself opening closets, peering into the attic, examining the basement. The house is structurally sound but hasn't been updated since the early 1990s. The kitchen needs modernizing, the bathrooms require renovation, and the electrical system should probably be upgraded. Still, the bones are good hardwood floors throughout, original crown molding, beautiful stained glass transom windows. In Grandma's office, I discover a folder labeled House History, containing documents tracing the property back to its construction in 1896. There are newspaper clippings about the original owner's architectural drawings, and photos showing the house through various decades. Grandma had preserved the home story with loving care. On Sunday afternoon, I meet with Maria Santos, a financial advisor recommended by Taylor. We sit at Grandma's dining room table with spreadsheets and calculators. Based on your current income and savings, Maria says, keeping the house is financially feasible, especially since there's no mortgage. Property taxes and insurance would be well within your budget. What about renovations? I ask. You have options. You could do it in phases as your budget allows. Or you could take out a home equity line of credit, using the property's substantial value. Given current interest rates and your excellent credit, monthly payments would be manageable. And if I decided to sell, after capital gains considerations, you'd have a significant down payment for a property in Chicago, where you've mentioned wanting to relocate eventually, or a healthy investment portfolio. But there's another option worth considering. Maria outlines a third possibility, keeping the house but converting part of it into a separate apartment that could generate rental income. The property is zoned for a duplex, and the basement level with its separate entrance could be transformed into a self-contained unit. It would require initial investment, she cautions, but would provide long-term income while preserving the property. This option resonates immediately. I could honor Grandma's wish for me to have the house while creating something productive with it. And perhaps, an idea takes shape, one that feels both fair and appropriate. Over the next week, I consult with contractors about the basement conversion. The quotes are reasonable. The space already has a full bathroom and rough plumbing for a kitchenette that was never completed. With proper insulation, egress windows, and updated fixtures, it could become a comfortable one-bedroom apartment with separate utilities and its own entrance off the side garden. I take measurements, create a budget, and develop a timeline. The renovation could be completed in approximately 2 months. I request temporary remote work from my company, which they approve given my track record. While the contractors begin work, I focus on the main house. I paint the living room a warm cream instead of Heather's planned sage green. I clean out Grandma's personal belongings, donating her clothes to a women's shelter but carefully preserving photographs, journals, and mementos. I refinish the dining room table where Grandma taught me to roll pie crust. I clean the antique chandelier crystal by crystal. I weed the garden beds and prune the rose bushes according to her instructions. With each task, I feel more connected to both Grandma and the house itself. My parents maintain radio silence throughout this period. Heather sends occasional texts alternating between guilt trips and anger. I respond politely but briefly, offering no details about my plans for the property. After 6 weeks of intensive work, both the main house and the basement apartment are ready. The apartment features a comfortable living area, modern kitchenette, updated bathroom and bedroom with ample closet space. It's modest but pleasant, with its own washer/dryer hookup and separate mailing address. I've furnished it simply but completely with quality basics. A new mattress and bed frame, sofa, dining table with chairs, and essential kitchen equipment. The rent I've calculated is 30% below market rate for comparable units in the area. Affordable but not free. Finally, I draft a document with my attorney's help, a formal lease agreement with specific terms and conditions. Then I call my parents. I'd like to meet with you and Heather to discuss my decision about the house, I say when Mom answers. So you've finally come to your senses, she replies frostily. I've made my decision. I correct her. Are you available tomorrow evening? They arrive precisely at 6, Heather practically vibrating with anticipation. I've prepared coffee and pie, not Grandma's recipe, but a decent store-bought version. Before I explain my decision, I begin. Once we're seated in the living room, I want to clarify something. This house was left to me legally and with clear intent. What I've decided to do with it is my choice, made thoughtfully and independently. Mom's expression tightens, but Dad places a restraining hand on her arm. The house remains in my name. I state clearly, I'm not transferring ownership to anyone. Heather's face falls dramatically. I knew you'd be selfish about this. I'm not finished, I continue calmly. I've converted the basement level into a separate apartment. It's approximately 700 square feet with its own entrance, bathroom, and kitchenette. All utilities are separate. I slide a folder across the coffee table. This is a lease agreement. I'm offering this apartment to you, Heather, at below market rent. It includes all basic furnishings and appliances. The initial lease is for 1 year with option to renew if all terms are met. Heather stares at the folder without touching it. You want me to pay rent? To my own sister. Yes. Fair rent for a nice apartment in a good neighborhood. But I don't have a job, she protests. The lease requires proof of employment within 30 days. I've included information about 3 job openings in your field that are currently accepting applications. Mom looks outraged. This is your idea of helping family? Turning your grandmother's home into a business opportunity. This is my idea of respecting what Grandma valued, I reply evenly. Self-sufficiency, effort, and earning what you have. The apartment is ready now. The rent is affordable. But it isn't free, and it comes with expectations of responsible tenancy. Expectations. Heather echoes. Standard lease terms. Timely rent payment. Property maintenance. No unauthorized occupants. Noise limitations. You're treating me like a stranger. I'm treating you like an adult, I correct her. Capable of meeting basic responsibilities. Dad, surprisingly, is examining the lease with interest. This rent is quite reasonable, he observes. Dad. Heather protests. What? It's a fair offer, Heather. He continues reading. And the apartment looks well appointed. Would you like to see it? I offer. To everyone's surprise, Dad stands. Yes, I would. I lead them downstairs to the newly renovated apartment. Despite herself, Heather's eyes widen at the transformation. The space is bright, modern, and inviting, small but efficiently designed. The bedroom gets morning light, I explain, opening doors as we tour. The bathroom has a new shower and vanity. The kitchen has all new appliances. Dad nods appreciatively. You've put real thought into this. Mom remains stone-faced, but I catch her eyeing the new refrigerator with approval. Back upstairs, I lay out the terms again. This is my offer. A below-market apartment, partially furnished, in a safe neighborhood. The catch is you have to act like a responsible tenant. Pay rent on time. Keep the space in good condition. Maintain employment. And if I refuse? Heather challenges. Then you continue with your current housing arrangements, I reply simply. This offer remains open for 2 weeks. You really won't just help me without all these conditions? Her voice breaks slightly. This is helping you, Heather. Real help isn't doing things for you. It's creating conditions where you can succeed on your own. She laughs bitterly. Now you sound just like Grandma. Thank you, I reply sincerely. That's the nicest thing you could say to me. Mom stands abruptly. We need to discuss this as a family. In private. Of course, I agree. As I said, the offer stands for 2 weeks. After that, I'll find another tenant. Another tenant? Mom repeats incredulously. You'd rent your grandmother's home to a stranger over your own sister? I'd rent it to someone who meets the terms of the lease, I clarify. I hope that's Heather. After they leave, I exhale slowly, relieved the confrontation is over. I've held firm to my boundaries while still offering a genuine solution. Whether Heather accepts is now her choice. Her first adult decision in a long time. 3 days later, Dad calls. Heather has a job interview tomorrow at Carlton Marketing. Entry-level position, but in her field. That's great news. A pause. Your mother is still upset. I know. But I think this might be for the best. His voice lowers. We haven't done Heather any favors over the years. It's the closest he's ever come to acknowledging their enabling patterns. The apartment looks very nice, he adds awkwardly. Thank you, Dad. Another week passes before Heather texts me. Asterisk got the job. Starting Monday. Can I see the lease again? Asterisk. I resist the urge to celebrate too obviously. Asterisk congratulations. Yes, I'll email it today. Asterisk. We meet at a coffee shop to sign the paperwork. Heather seems different, subdued but purposeful. I have the security deposit, she says, handing me a check. And first month's rent. I try to hide my surprise. Where did you? I sold some things, she interrupts. Designer bags, shoes. Stuff I didn't really need. It's such an un-Heather-like statement that I'm momentarily speechless. Don't make a big deal about it, she mutters. I'm just tired of sleeping in Dad's train room. The whistle sound effects go off randomly at night. I smile despite myself. The apartment is yours whenever you're ready to move in. As we sign the papers, I realize Grandma's legacy is taking shape in ways I never anticipated. This house, her house, now my house, is becoming a vehicle for change rather than just a possession to be inherited. 3 months later, I'm pruning the rose bushes in the side garden when I hear the distinct sound of Heather's car pulling into the driveway. She emerges carrying grocery bags, using her hip to close the car door. Need help? I call over the fence. She startles slightly. Oh, I didn't see you there. No, I've got it. I watch as she juggles the bags to unlock her separate entrance. There's a new confidence in her movements, small but noticeable. The transition hasn't been entirely smooth. The first month brought teething problems. A late rent payment, by just 2 days but still, complaints about the water pressure, and a minor disagreement about parking arrangements. But by the second month, patterns began stabilizing. Heather maintained her job, paid rent on time, and even planted flowers in the small container garden outside her entrance. Mom maintained a chilly distance initially, canceling our usual monthly lunch and responding to texts with minimal words. Dad, however, called weekly, awkwardly attempting to bridge the gap while respecting my boundaries for perhaps the first time in our relationship. The following Saturday, I'm surprised by a knock on my door. It's Heather, holding a plate covered in foil. I made too much lasagna, she explains when I open the door. Thought you might want some. The gesture is so unexpected I momentarily struggle for words. Thanks. That's really nice of you. She shrugs, appearing embarrassed by her own thoughtfulness. It's nothing fancy. Just tried Grandma's recipe. You're cooking Grandma's recipes? This seems more significant than the food itself. Found her cookbook in the basement storage area. Hope you don't mind I took it. Not at all. I accept the plate. Would you like to come in for a bit? She hesitates before nodding. Just for a minute. I have laundry going. Inside, she glances around curiously. You've kept it pretty much the same. Some things. Changed others. I've preserved the architectural details and general layout but updated the paint colors and some furnishings. The kitchen's still a work in progress. Heather wanders to the mantelpiece where I've arranged family photos, including several of Grandma. You know, she tried to teach me to cook once, she says unexpectedly. I was maybe 14. Made a huge mess and got frustrated when the cookies burned. I remember. You said cooking was boring and for people without better things to do. She winces. I was a real brat, wasn't I? Sometimes, I admit. We all have our moments. She picks up a photo of Grandma in her garden. She never gave up on me though. Kept inviting me for those summer visits even when I always said no. She believed in second chances. Heather replaces the photo carefully. The job's going well, she offers. Got a small raise last week. Congratulations. I'm genuinely pleased for her. That's impressive so quickly. It's the first time I've stayed anywhere long enough for a performance review. She says this matter-of-factly, with new self-awareness. Turns out if you actually show up consistently and do the work, people notice. The observation is so obvious yet represents such growth that I hide a smile. Revolutionary concept. Don't be smug, she warns, but without real heat. I should get back to my laundry. Just wanted to drop that off. Thanks again for the lasagna. At the door she pauses. This arrangement. It's not what I wanted, but it might be what I needed. The admission clearly costs her something in pride. Grandma would be pleased, I offer. Maybe. A ghost of her old defensiveness flickers. She always liked you better, though. She believed in me, I correct gently. There's a difference. After she leaves, I sample the lasagna. It's slightly overcooked with too much garlic, but recognizably Grandma's recipe. The effort behind it means more than the execution. The following weekend brings another surprise. An invitation to Sunday dinner at my parents' house. I accept with cautious optimism. The atmosphere is tentative, conversation careful but not hostile. Mom has made her famous pot roast, Dad discusses a documentary about historical trains, and Heather mentions a work project without drama or complaint. No one references the house directly, though I catch Mom glancing at me speculatively several times. As I help clear dishes, Mom finally speaks privately. Heather seems different. She's doing well. I agree neutrally. The job suits her. She rinses a plate with unnecessary thoroughness. And the apartment arrangement seems to be working out. It is. She hands me the wet plate. I still think you could have handled things differently. I accept this is likely the closest she'll come to acknowledging my approach might have merit. We all did what we thought was right. Your grandmother would be pleased about one thing. She concedes. The house is still in the family. That's what mattered to her, I agree. Not who owned it, but that it remained a home where family could grow. Mom's expression softens marginally. You've always understood her in ways the rest of us didn't. It's not quite an apology or admission of mishandling Heather all these years, but it's a tentative olive branch. I accept it as such. The following months bring continued stability. Heather maintains her job, advancing to a coordinator position. She pays rent consistently, occasionally a day early rather than late. Our interactions evolve from awkward civility to something resembling a normal sister relationship. Still with history and tension, but without the extreme dysfunction of before. Mom gradually thaws, though she occasionally makes pointed references to, when Heather eventually gets her own place, as if the current arrangement is still temporary in her mind. Dad seems relieved by the reduced family drama, and has taken to bringing Heather homemade cookies on his weekly visits, now delivered to her own entrance rather than upstairs to me. 6 months after Heather moved in, I host a small dinner party. Taylor and her boyfriend, 2 work colleagues, Uncle Michael and his wife, and somewhat daringly Heather. The evening unfolds better than I anticipated, with Heather engaging appropriately with my friends and even helping serve dessert without being asked. As guests prepare to leave, Heather lingers in the kitchen, drying wine glasses I've washed. Nice friends, she comments. The tall guy, James, seems particularly interested in you. I feel myself blush slightly. We're just colleagues. Her knowing smirk is irritating but also oddly normal. Just a sister teasing rather than manipulating. She places the last glass in the cabinet. This was nice. The dinner. It was. Thanks for your help. I've been thinking, she says, folding the dish towel with uncharacteristic precision. Maybe next time I could host. In my place. Smaller. But I could manage dinner for 4 or 5. The suggestion reveals how far we've come. Months ago, Heather wouldn't have contemplated hosting others or acknowledging her space as distinctly hers rather than an extension of what should have been hers entirely. I'd like that, I tell her. Later that night, alone in what is now truly my home, I sit in Grandma's my rocking chair by the bay window. The house has transformed like Heather, like our family, like me. Parts preserved, parts renovated, the whole structure stronger for the careful balance of change and tradition. On the side table rests Grandma's journal. I've read it cover to cover now. finding wisdom and perspective in her observations about family patterns stretching back decades. Her final entry, written just days before her death, seems especially poignant tonight. The greatest inheritance isn't property or money, but the courage to break harmful cycles. Amber has this courage, though she doesn't fully realize it yet. The house is just a catalyst. The true legacy is learning that love without boundaries isn't love at all, but dependence masquerading as affection. May she understand this gift is greater than any building of wood and stone. Grandma knew that what our family needed wasn't another enabler, but someone willing to establish healthy boundaries with compassion. In choosing me as her heir, she wasn't playing favorites. She was selecting the person most likely to facilitate growth, rather than stagnation. The house hasn't fixed all our family's dysfunction. Mom still occasionally makes passive-aggressive comments, Dad still avoids direct confrontation, and Heather still has moments of entitlement and self-pity. But the foundations have shifted. New patterns are possible now that the old ones have been disrupted. As for me, I've discovered a strength I didn't know I possessed: the ability to withstand disapproval, while still offering compassion. To set boundaries without building walls. To recognize that sometimes the kindest gift isn't what someone wants but what they need to grow. Grandma's final lesson wasn't about property rights or inheritance. It was about the courage to stand firm in your values, even when those you love push against them. The house was never the true inheritance. The legacy was learning that genuine love sometimes requires saying no, and that family bonds should elevate rather than entrap. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision that caused family tension but ultimately led to growth? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about family dynamics, boundaries, and personal growth. Remember that standing firm in your values doesn't mean standing alone. Our community here understands the challenges of navigating complex family relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you find the courage to honor your own boundaries with both strength and compassion.